What keeps people in relationships with narcissists often is the projection of their own understanding of self onto the other person. Often you might think the first step in healing and getting the relationship on track is getting them to acknowledge things, getting them to understand how you're feeling. And so you think about them and why they do the things that they do in terms of what would motivate you. And so you want to help them with those insecurities. You want to help to continue to reassure them and build that trust. And you know that accepting them and, whatnot is helpful as well. And so your desire for reconciliation, for common ground understanding, for exchanging empathetic understanding of one another is going to be important. And that's what makes it really frustrating and confusing is you often think like, why would somebody do this? Why, And the way that you would understand their behavior would be modeled after how you would understand your own. People will say things like, gosh, like, I don't get it. How could somebody do this and sleep at night? And you just want for everything that they could understand your perspective, that you want them to understand how they made you feel. Well, in some ways they do, but in many ways they can never, because they can't really empathize with you. They're structured differently. So that's what there is to understand. It's like I'm a mechanic in a way, right? Like I build gasoline and, engines and stuff. But if I'm trying to diagnose a jet engine with the knowledge I have about the way the car engine works, listening to the sounds it makes and going, oh, it might be a rod bearing. Well, the jet engine doesn't have a rod bearing. So the mechanics of the way the car works doesn't apply to the jet. But you see, the thing is that what if the jet looks like a car? And so a narcissist looks and behaves like a person, right? The difference is they're different. Like their mind is mechanically different. And so while you're trying to work on the relationship and you're trying to talk and you're trying to resolve things in a normal, healthy way, like some people are going to therapy and then they're given tools and strategies and trying to meet each other's needs and then going about it in a conventional manner. It's just that what it is that you aspire towards, what you want from them, it's impossible. I could listen to that engine and it's not the same type of engine, but the sounds might seem the same. And so what I'm coming up with as a conclusion for why they're doing that, they're making that sound, wouldn't be right. See, for me, that was a big problem with business, was that when these people around me were not performing, I would imagine fear of failure. I would imagine like they lost sight of the vision. And so I became sort of like what I thought was the visionary. I felt, well, I do understand more than they do. I understand certain implications they don't, because since it's my business, like I know we're going to be at the SEMA show, the PRI show. We have these deadlines. Like I'm so aware of the implications, it seemed like I needed to keep reminding them. So rather than addressing, what was actually projecting and gaslighting and lying and covert manipulation strategies and mirroring. So like I would keep having these meetings to try to get clear about why we failed to deliver or why this guy's not making the car parts like he's supposed to. And then I would get all the excuses, stories, a little bit of projection where like we missed something on our design and he needed this and needed that, so that's why he didn't do it. Okay, and I noticed that like what he was doing, he made the engagement so impossible, like this, like, and it was very frustrating, and I was trying to adjust to what he kept saying he needed from me, and like I'm not doing my job. That was a problem. And so while I'm trying to deal with that, I'm also trying to re-inspire them, and so I looked at myself like the visionary. I felt responsible. So it was kind of like being a people pleaser, not quite. I realized after discovering this that I was a fixer, but it was very different from other people. My fixing has long been intellectual. That like my seemingly ability to understand and inspire and motivate people, as well as my creative capacity And then the fact that I'm the one building and fostering the big picture relationships to empower or the production and the sale of my automotive performance parts, I could see the big picture, and that's what I thought my role was. Like, I'm the big picture guy, and often I have to go to the other players on the team and then re-inspire them. But you see, they weren't inspired. They were mirroring while they were conspiring. And so when they re-mirror me and we seem to be back on the same page, it's probably much like what happens in traditional romantic abuse cycles. And so I was being covert, manipulated, and abused by a large number of people in and around my business, some of which were taking large sums of money on salaries and not getting the work done. Others were engineers that were paid in full for CAD modeling that got not done complete, and then they skipped town with the money. Others were, machinists that were supposed to be producing parts that were stalling because they're going to try to threaten a lawsuit in order to extort me for equity in my business and gain full control of me and my own company, as well as having only exclusive rights to my intellectual property. And so while they're doing that, I'm not seeing it because I'm looking at them based on the mirroring. I'm thinking at them like myself, just they didn't have the same vision and understanding of the parts. They didn't know this, didn't know that. And so I am just desperately trying to get realignment while I am the one holding it all together. So much energy was wasted. So much time was wasted. And so what it is now is that in understanding, more about the way the narcissist thinks and explaining their behavior in those terms has given me a lot of clarity and a lot of power and freedom, and even, a way of discerning these behaviors on the front end, because a lot of what I suffered through was totally avoidable, and the manipulation, the gaslighting, the mirroring, that was all stuff that would be clearly observable had I not been in this altered state from persisting in a romantic relationship with a covert narcissist that was, basically wearing me down. And so I was just worn down, surviving on my analytical mind, very emotionally disconnected from all the deceptions, the betrayals, the disappointments of the failures at the hands of these other people. And so that's why I share this stuff, is that you really want to start to recognize that the things that you want out of narcissists, the understanding that you want, and even the way that you're attempting to explain and understand their behavior often will be in conventional human emotional terms, and you're projecting the way that you would feel in their shoes or what would make you do the things that they do. That's also what they do to us. They don't trust us. They don't trust the emotional framework of kindness, love, compassion, empathy, that we do things because we care, and we do things because we feel good in support of other people, that we get identity out of making a difference for other people, that it's just fundamentally part of who we are. They can't see that because they don't feel those things. They can't relate to it because it doesn't exist within their mind. And that's why they don't connect with us on a real personal level. That's why we only exist for them in meeting their needs and providing ongoing supply. And even in the delays that these people were doing, part of it was that my concern was supply. It made them more important, that if this guy kept delaying, he's got me in a position of nearly begging him to do his job. And so he's trying to jostle for significance and importance, and the way that he could do that is by perpetually delaying and putting me in a state of stress, which was also part of his covert tactic to extort me. By making a part of something that was really important, he can dangle it like a carrot and say, look, make all this pain go away, make this for you, but if you don't do it, I'm going to sue you. That's what he did, and that's what happened. So that's why I share. It's like, holy shit, don't let it happen to you.